Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dadsigner podcast. I'm Michael Smith, your host, and today I'm joined by Brad Bishop. Hey, Brad, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Brad and I got connected through the wonderful algorithm that YouTube is. He had seen a video of someone he knew, Jeremy Slagle, a former guest, which was awesome to get connected that way. But yeah, why don't you tell folks a little bit about where you're from, what you do, and a bit about your family?
Um, yeah, I was born and raised in the Dallas, Texas area. I'm still here. Um, in 2005, one of my close friends and I opened up our own design studio after spending a decade working at big agencies in the Dallas area. And this year we're celebrating our 20th year. Uh,
Nice.
and my wife and I are now empty nesters as our daughter Michaela is now 24 years old, out of school, out of the house, off on her own, and doing great.
Nice. So she would have been about 4-ish when you made the leap.
Yeah,
What
she
was
was
that like?
about to turn 5 years old and start kindergarten. Yeah.
Wow. What gave you the confidence to make the leap at that point?
Um, we had and my business partner, Michael Thurman. Mike and I had been talking about doing this for quite a while. Um, one of the advantages of working in a large studio, a large agency, was meeting people, getting connected to people that know people that, oh, hey, this person needs a logo for their business and they want a new identity. I know these guys that do it over at this agency. So we always kind of had this in mind. Um, and then had kind of, I had left one of the big agencies I was at, bounced around, did some freelance. We were still trying to put a portfolio together, trying to get things together. And one day and I hadn't really quite fully committed to just diving in and going. And one day my wife said, look, our daughter's young enough. She had a nice 9 to 5 job. She said, now's the time. Get this going, because if you don't, you're never going to do it. Uh, and, who knows where you'll be, and you'll probably be miserable wherever you're working if you don't start now. Uh, so let's see, I would have been 32, 33, and then
Yeah,
we haven't looked back since.
that's awesome. That's awesome. And I'm assuming that you didn't start out, and I could be wrong here, but I'm assuming you didn't start out with clients like Disney, NHL,
No,
etc.
our very first client was a kind of a small Starbucks competitor. They were opening up a coffee shop. There was also going to do gelato ice cream. It was literally, they were opening this up across the street from a very, very popular Starbucks here in Dallas. That was our very first client, as Torch Creative.
Nice. And did you
Yeah.
do identity, interior, does it like
It
what
was that was
yeah.
that was a really funny that was kind of a crazy one because I actually have some architectural background. I was possibly gonna be an architect before I got into this, but math is not my thing. But we did logo design. The next thing you know, they're asking us to work with, the interior designer, help them pick out colors. The next thing I know, I'm helping draw schematics of the restaurant. So we weren't gonna turn it down because we didn't, it was a huge project and we were getting paid, but we were really kind of way out of our depth, but somehow it worked. But unfortunately, that place didn't make it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they couldn't compete. Starbucks was just too much of a powerhouse.
Mm, yeah, makes sense. So then, how how did that first year go, and, like, what led you to the clients that you're working with today?
Um, the first year, it was a lot of stuff like that. It was a lot of knowing other people. We actually had a friend who had left the agency world as well, and he was bouncing around kind of doing his own thing as far as marketing goes. So he kept us busy with small projects like all the time. Um, and then from there, we had met the collegiate licensing company, had met people from there, and then, we were also kind of working on our own, um, kind of spec portfolio because we didn't really have a good, strong portfolio, so a lot of it was spec. We were able to get in front of a company in New York called SME that does a lot. They used to, before they were purchased, they did a lot of most of the athletic identities that were done in the probably late 80s through the mid to late 2000s. They did a lot of them, and they started freelancing us quite a bit there for, the first couple of years.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool. And launching out on your own with your daughter being as young as she was, how did that impact um, family life? What you were able to do? Was the agency previous to that like kind of crazy? What were your hours like?
Yeah, the agency world, if you're young, you don't have a family yet, and you want to make a name for yourself, work your way up the ladder. Agencies are fine. They're gonna work you to death, but if you kind of play your cards right, you're gonna meet the right people. Maybe, who knows what kind of doors that might open for you. But I remember, working because you didn't work 9 to 5 at an agency. I mean, that's just not how those things work in that world. And I remember one night coming home, it was my birthday, and she had she was in bed. She was like 3, I think, and she couldn't wait to tell me she had made me a birthday cake. And that when I walked out of her room, I was bawling. I was like, "Okay, I cannot miss any more of these days or nights like that." And that's really was another thing that kinda kicked it off.
Mm.
I told my wife, I was like, I'm gonna get this going. I'm not doing this." And then, then I started telling them at the agency, 6 o'clock rolled around, "Hey, I'm going home. I'm not staying. I'm not working on this. I'm going home. If you have a problem with it, well, okay, sorry." So then, yeah, when Mike and I started Torch, because, he had young kids as well, I'm picking her up every day from school. I'm coaching her soccer team, her basketball team, and helping coach her volleyball team. So every evening, my wife she'd get off work at 5, she'd be home 5:30. So it was the 3 of us every night doing stuff, hanging out, you know, the stuff you can't put a price on, just family time.
Yeah, that's really cool. One of the things I did want to talk to you about within your portfolio was there's several series of logos, badges, identities. Um, some for the NHL, some for the ACC. Um, I think there's NBA ones too. But you know, as a consumer, you see let's take the MLB All-Star logo, right? Every year the All-Star game moves around and they try to pull from the city that it's in to make the logo. For you, it appears that you guys have won a lot of those types of badges, those types of identities. How do you differentiate them from year to year? What does the process look like to ideate and move forward with one of those?
Yeah, that's a great question. I wish there was a little more of a magic formula to it. It's really not. You kind of mentioned it. Now, some clients will tell you, "Hey, next year we're going to be in Dallas. Here's some things to think about." So they may give us some ideas to start with. Sometimes they're just like, "Hey, we're going to be in Chicago next year. Whatever you come up with, we look forward to seeing it." So a lot of the research thing does tend to fall on us, and we enjoy that because it feels like we are way more invested, into doing the research and finding things and trying to sprinkle in Easter eggs, for lack of a better term. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's just really and the I think one of the things, because both Mike and I, when we were in college, it was the transition from hand-drawn stuff to computer. My senior
Mhm.
year in college is when they brought all the computers in, so it was just kind of a crazy time for me trying to navigate that. So we always do pencil drawings first, and if you just stay loose and draw and draw and draw, those ideas and those things will come out just based on repetition, experience, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, yeah.
On average for an identity like that, how many sketches, not just raw sketches, but kind of refined concepts are you presenting to a client?
Um, Refined, I would say probably in the neighborhood of 8 to 10. And so that's usually 2 of us, doing a variety. I mean, we've sometimes we may present 20. It's one of those things where you have to stop and evaluate, okay, is this one good enough? And if it's not good enough, then throw it out, because if you show a client something that you don't love, I promise you they will choose it every time. And then you're stuck with something that you're not that crazy about trying to figure out how to make it work.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
How do you and Mike break up the work, both being, you know, designers, both having concepts, both putting your concepts in for client review?
Yeah. I mean, it's right now it's tricky because we have so much work right now. It's a little bit of, hey, you take this one, I'll take that one kind of thing. But years past, it's here's the project. Okay, we're going to present initial sketches on so and so date. So he'll go do some, I'll go do some. We'll connect back. And this is where you got to have some thick skin to tell each other, it's okay, but it could be better. Or I'm just not crazy about that one. And if the other one says that, it's like, well, okay, I thought it really had something. Maybe it doesn't. Okay, well, we won't show this one. But yeah, we'll both do 3 to 4 or 5, um, put a presentation together, show it to the client, and like I said, whoever's is chosen, then that person becomes the lead on the project going forward.
Yeah, that's cool. One of the things that, you guys do a lot with sports, but one of the things that I've gotten more into thanks to, and I've mentioned this podcast more times than I would have ever imagined I would on this, but Baseball by Design, uh, which is the minor league design podcast. You guys did the Midland Rockhounds, um, which is which is a really it's really well done. I've seen some that aren't my favorite, but this one is really well done. Where did the Rockhound name come from? How did you get connected with the team?
It was really crazy. We just got a phone call one day. We had done some small things with minor league baseball and had a nice relationship with them. And then one day, literally a phone call out of the blue, "Hey, we really like your work. Would you wanna work with us on this project?" No way we could turn that down, absolutely. And they were great to work with. They really let us they really let us explore a lot, but then they kinda reined us back in just a little bit. And I know we were all really excited of where things landed and all the final pieces.
Do you think part of them selecting you was location?
Part of it, yeah,
Part of it, yeah.
yeah,
I,
I think so.
I'm. It's curious because it feels like, based on my limited knowledge of how these decisions are made, and obviously every organization is a little bit different. Folks either shoot for the top, which is usually like Studio Simon or someone like that, or they shoot for like the best local. And if you put them side by side, it's not like, oh, Simon's is way better than anyone else, but it's very interesting to see. Like, I tend to like it when they hire local because I feel like there's more of an affinity. There's more of that, you that research is a little bit closer to home, a little easier to do because you're there. Um, but yeah, do you see something similar with that?
A little bit. I'm very glad they didn't call Dan Simon because he's kind of the minor league master. I mean, the guy's just incredible. Mike and I have been big fans of his for ever since we saw his work. Um, I don't know why they didn't call Dan. Like I said, I'm glad they didn't. But the one thing they did say is, we don't want to look like everybody else.
Yeah.
So I think, and I know that we had talked about, they wanted a little less on the illustrative side and some of that stuff. Because as you know, minor league sports can get, and as it should be, a little more illustrative because it's they're trying to appeal to families and young kids and getting young kids to collect the different hats. So, you kind of see that they didn't want to lean too far into that. And I think, like I said, they were like, we don't really want to look like a lot of other teams look right now. And
Yeah.
that wasn't a knock on Dan at all.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. There's a reason that he's known for what he does. But of that identity, the Rockhounds identity, and all minor league sports brands kind of have this. There's multiple pieces, right? You got the M, you've got the Rockhound itself, you got the word mark. Which piece would you say is your favorite from developing that identity?
Um, well, my partner Mike did the paw print. That's the oil drops. Um, I just when he showed me that, I was like, "That's perfect. That is absolutely perfect." So I'm a huge fan of that. And I worked on the dog, the Rockhound himself, and that was a real challenge, because they didn't wanna lose the feel they had in the original, because we had done some Rockhounds that were vastly different,
Hmm.
and they liked them, but they're like, "We feel like we're getting too far away, it's way too big of a change for the brand." So they kinda kept challenging us, and I think when we finally got to that point where, like I said, the Rockhound is now, I think we were both pretty excited with that one.
Yeah. And what year was that you guys did that?
I wanna say right before COVID, so around
Okay.
2019, maybe somewhere around there, I
So
think.
your daughter would have been teenage plus.
Yeah, she'd been about 18, 19, yeah.
Would is she a baseball fan? Did you get to take her to any games to show her the?
No, 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 she went to Oklahoma State for a little
Okay.
while. She's a huge college football fan, and I'm a big Texas Longhorn fan.
Oh.
So we went to the last Big 12 championship here at, where the Cowboys play a couple years ago when Texas played Oklahoma State, and that was a fun car ride home because Texas just killed them. So
Uh,
yeah, I think we were about the 3rd quarter. Well, actually, we all went to breakfast, and she's kinda giving me a hard time. She's like, typical dad stuff. "Dad, we're not leaving in the 4th quarter. I don't wanna hear the, 'Oh, we need to beat traffic and head home.'" And I think we're about halfway through the 3rd quarter. She looks at me, she goes, "You ready to go?" And I was like, "Oh, no. We're gonna watch the trophy presentation. We're gonna watch the whole thing."
oh
Yeah, so it's
man,
pretty, yeah, she loves college football.
that's cool. That's really cool. Yeah, I was actually just talking to my dad last night. I'm an Atlanta Braves fan. He's a Philadelphia Phillies fan. Long story how this happened, but he and my brother and I went to a Braves Phillies game 2 years ago in Philadelphia on the game that the Braves clinched the division. And I'm standing there like like I want to stay. I want to watch them celebrate. My dad and brother are like, it's time to go. Let's go.
There you
Let's
go.
get out of here.
Yeah.
It's never as satisfying when you clinch something in an opposing team's stadium. Just doesn't have the same feel. Yeah, the other thing I wanted to talk about from your work perspective is you all have done a bunch of stuff with Disney slash Lucasfilm. Um, Talk to me a little bit about the work you did and like where it landed because I feel like there's so many surfaces that Disney stuff lands in, whether it be the park or their stores or their, now their digital assets and stuff like that. Like what pieces did you work on and what was cool about that?
Yeah. Oh gosh, that was growing up, Mike and I were both massive Disney fans. I'll date myself again. I saw the original Star Wars in the theater in 1977. I was 5 years old. So it has just stuck in my brain for almost 50 years now. Um, we had it, one of the things that I like to do is have a project outside of Torch. I like to have something I can work on, and I'll show Mike and get his feedback. But I want to do something where there's no clients, my own client. I want to create something, and I had been playing around with of just like a vector movie poster for the original Star Wars film. Well, I mean, secrets out. Somebody at Disney saw it and they called us and said, "Hey, we're you've probably seen we're going to open up a Star Wars based land in Disneyland and Disney World. We'd love to have you do some merchandise design for us." Well, I mean, and I'll get to another story with that in just shortly. So we were like just totally geeking out, freaking out, and they said, it's going to be merchandise. It'll be like patches and pins, the kind of things you get in the gift shop where you come off a ride, T-shirts and iPhone cases and stuff. And I think they said, we just need about 5 designs of this and 5 designs of that. You don't have to go crazy. Well, we did. I think we presented like 40 different. I mean, we were drawing and sketching, and we presented it, to the people we were working with, and they were like, "Okay, we'll take everything except like those 2. We'll take all this." And we're like, "Oh my gosh!" So we did a ton of stuff. Um, that was my wife's family ended up having a family reunion because they're kind of spread out in the U.S. and everyone met at Disney World. That was right after Galaxy's Edge opened, so I got to see it. And then that was October 2019. Couple months later, everything shut down because of COVID. So I got to see it and purchase some things in Disney World, which is a euphoric experience. That's something you've grown up with and loved with a deep passion your whole life. You got to create this and you're seeing it right here in front of your own eyes at this park. It was incredible. That led to, and just to recap real quick, right after I graduated college, summer of '95, I went to a job fair back where we used to have to carry our portfolios and, no internet really. It was a job fair. And I interviewed with Disney Imagineering. They offered me an internship because you go do an internship, and if things work out, then they'll offer you a job. But I would have had to move to Glendale, California, and you can't. They work you a lot, so you can't really have a second job, and it's so expensive out there. And I was so broke. I was like, I had to turn it down, and it always kind of stuck with me. Like, dang it, man, I wish I could have done that. But the table kind of got flipped because I got to do work for them, and I was looking at it there in the park, and it was all on my own, not working for them. So that was just I can't describe how special that was.
That's really cool.
Yeah, yeah. But then that led to uh, we had met. Trying to think, we met a guy who actually works for the big event company that manages Lucasfilm's events. They saw some of that stuff and called us and said, "Hey, we need to do merchandise and stuff for like the Star Wars celebration, which is like Star Wars Comic Con, basically." And so we started doing stuff for them. Matter of fact, we have a call Tuesday for, and
Wow.
I can't wait. I cannot wait. That's the 50th anniversary,
Oh yeah,
so I can't wait to dive in on that, see what all they might want us to do.
that's cool. How long does that merchandise last for? Like, especially that stuff you put in the park the first time. Is it like 1,
Yeah,
2 years? Like
the well, I got to see, almost all of it in 2019 because it was
mhm.
everywhere. Uh, we had gone to one of the, conventions we go to each year is in Orlando. 2 let's see, we're there this year, not there. Okay, 2 years ago, we went back and just quickly hit Hollywood Studios one afternoon. There was a decent amount there, still there, and they had kinda changed some of the stuff up. They had pulled elements off some and kinda mixed and match a little bit. I think I bought a hat, that had one of our designs on it. But I would say 40-50% of the things we're done might still be there, and I'm sure
Oh, cool.
by now they've probably kinda turned it over and have some new stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. I just never know, like, what the shelf life is for some of the stuff that gets created, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I
but
mean,
that's
I
really
would say
cool.
probably a 3. maybe 4-year shelf life max is my guess, but I don't know. Haven't
Yeah,
been back, in a couple years.
yeah. It's probably just to sell more stuff for them because the movie didn't change.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Um,
if you've got one sweatshirt that already has this design, you're not gonna buy the same sweatshirt.
right, right. Yeah, it's not like the work is no longer good. It's just like, okay, it's why all the minor league teams have so many alternate identities
Yeah,
to
and
sell more stuff.
we deal with that with a lot of the colleges we work with is when they want a new identity or a new character and things, a lot of it is to help drive merchandise sales.
Hmm, yeah. That's really cool. I hope that meeting Tuesday goes well.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, so I wanted to ask you two more questions before we wrap up. And those are more parenting related, which is as a dad, what has been your greatest parenting joy? And what has been your biggest learning?
Parenting joy, there's several, the milestones that kids hit and do. But I think right now, the biggest joy is just seeing her, independent, on her own, great job. I tell my wife all the time, I said, "She got your maturity because at 24, she's 10 times more mature and responsible than I was." So really that really makes you feel good. And then not too long ago, she had gotten her own place, and her boyfriend was, like, trying to hang the TV and hang some stuff up, and I've always been do it yourselfer, have some kinda home project, I love kinda building stuff, working with tools and stuff, and when she was young, she always wanted to be with me. So I was always teaching her, screwdrivers and sockets and ratchets and, if we're gonna put some on a wall, we gotta find the stud, so she knew all that. So her boyfriend was trying to hang some stuff on the wall. She's like, "Get out of the way. You don't know what you're doing. Let me show you how to do it." Like, that was like a really funny, proud dad moment, when she's doing that.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, and you a lot of dads that I've had on the podcast have younger kids. So you have, more experience, probably more learnings, but like what would you summarize has been your biggest learning as raising a daughter?
Well, I mean, they can be a challenge, but honestly, I think they're a challenge more to the mother because daughters and mothers tend to do this a lot. She would always kinda, if she didn't get her way, then it's like, "Oh, dad, can you do this or can I have this?" Uh, as far as learning experience, um, I think I just learned really don't ever don't ever, ignore or skip over the time to spend with them if you have it. You know, if she calls and says, "Hey, let's go grab lunch." Well, if I've got other plans, yeah, you know what? Let me cancel this. Yeah, let's go have lunch. Let's go do this. Because my parents are gone. I don't my both my parents passed away. So I definitely want to do everything I can for her because my parents did so much for me. They were my two biggest supporters and fans of, getting my business going and doing this for a living. And I definitely I want to do that for her, whatever she needs.
Yeah, that's awesome. And is she in a creative field? Does she follow in your footsteps or does
Now,
she do her own thing?
my wife's in commercial real estate, so she's in the commercial real estate property management. But what's really funny is she'll work on like a flyer or something they're going to post on social media, and she'll show me. She'll be like, "Oh, check it out," and she's like, "Look, I kept it clean because I'm always like, you got to keep it clean, keep it clean." So she's always like, "Check it out, I did this flyer. Look how clean it is," and she did a nice job. She does a nice job, yeah. When
That's
she
cool.
was really little, back in the day, I had like those design markers. We do marker comps and stuff. When she'd come home from school, she would always get my markers out, and literally sit on the floor while I was working and color and draw. And I still have every single one of those drawings she ever did.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing about your
Absolutely, man.
family and your work. If folks want to find your business online or follow you online, where can they go to do that?
Uh, we use Instagram mostly because, as most people say, it's you can post your work easy. So Instagram, it's torch underscore creative or just torch creative. Pretty easy to find. Or LinkedIn. Brad Bishop at LinkedIn, and we spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, and we've gotten to connected to a lot of fun people because being in the creative field, we like seeing what other people do too. I think it's inspirational to see other designers and seeing the nice work that they do to kind of keep you top of your game.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you again for coming on, and chat soon.
Thanks, Michael. I really appreciate it.